it's a functioning airplane. It doesn't add up. In your body right now, the organization that's going on every second is like so remarkable. There's like 100 billion chemical changes occurring per second. There's like DNA, so that if I took all your DNA and unraveled it, like when you pull on the thread of a sweater, and I unraveled it and pulled it out of you, what's contained in you right now, I could wrap around the world 5 million times. I can go from the sun to Pluto and back to the sun and back to Pluto and back to the sun, back to Pluto and back to the sun with your DNA. And it's functioning perfectly well. It knows exactly what it's doing. It's not confused at any moment, because if it were, even for a few instants, it would be a really bad day. Really, really bad. Very quickly. But it's highly organized, and really in science today, both in physics and in biology, there is no explanation for this. We, for instance, in physics, have no clue how systems self-organize. All our theories are based on entropy, are based on systems, isolated systems, that have entropic behavior, conservation. That is, a system always go, according to our current physics, towards further disorder. However, you might have noticed in your bedroom yourself, for most of us, where there is disorder in our bedroom, there must have been order before. If we see systems that are moving towards disorder, the question, begs the question, where did the order come from? Because if it's going towards disorder, then there must be some fundamental principle of order present. And actually, when we look at the natural world, we see it go towards higher and higher level of complexity and higher level of organization. And we see negentropy. And that negentropy, the water going back into the clouds and raining back into our lake, that's the part we want. That's the part we want to understand. That's where the energy would be. That's where all the information of all organization would be. This is what we want to tap into. This is what we want to log on. It'd be the ultimate hard drive. Right? And as we identify, that might be the space. If that was true, if space would be that thing that organizes all things, since it's in contact with everything it could, if space is the holographic metric that creates systems, then that space could not be empty. Space would have to be full of energy, full of information. It wouldn't just be a little bit full, it would be infinitely full. Is space infinitely full of energy? Most likely. But how? I start to then look in physics where we would have evidence that space is not empty. Where we would have evidence that space is something other than nothing. Could we be that confused about something that looks like nothing? Well, it wouldn't be the first time. For instance, when the first equations for electromagnetism were rendered, there was some evidence that there was, more than the visible spectrum. But it looked like nothing to everybody else. And it wasn't until a photographic plate was left near radiating material that it was discovered that, whoa, we have X-rays and da-da-da. Oh, there's other frequencies, there's other things, radio waves, infrared, and so on, past what we see, what we experience directly with our 5 little senses. And today you don't think about it twice. You turn a radio on, you tune it, and all of a sudden a voice comes out of there. And all that programming is in the space. I go to physics conference, and many physicists, it's now the trend. It didn't used to be 20 years ago. If you said the C word in a physics conference, you'd get kicked out, The C word being consciousness. But now, things are changing. It's the cool thing. If you're retired or if you're looking for consciousness or the relationship of consciousness to physics. And many of these professionals are looking in the brain. This is equivalent to taking the radio set at home, opening it up, and looking for the announcer. It's not in there. It's just tuned. It's a resonance match. And that resonance match is a match to the structure of the vacuum itself. So I started looking at what the vacuum is doing physically, what is the space doing physically that I could quantify to see if it's really there. And, eventually I was in physics conference, and one of the physics conference I was at, I stopped everybody in the middle of a discussion about string theory. So we were in like 11 dimensions of superstring, and knots were flying everywhere and all this stuff. We were trying to figure out if a knot was really knotted or if it was not, and we were getting very confused. And at one point I stopped everybody and I said, hey, I've been looking for an equation. You guys are all like so awesome in physics. I'm sure you guys have an equation for this, but I'm not finding it. I've been looking for 15 years. I really would like to know where it is. And he said, okay, what is it? And I said, well, if I understand our current models of physics, the universe at the cosmological level is expanding, and the model we are given most of the time is a balloon with pennies glued to it. So I pulled up a physics book and showed that. And the pennies are glued to the surface of the balloon, and they represent galaxies. And as the balloon expands, the galaxies move away from each other. I shouldn't do that because my profile, my nose gets kind of blocked. But these galaxies moving away from each other is a representation of the expansion of the universe. And when I said to them, the equation I cannot find, I really would like some help on that, is what I want to know is who's this guy? I can't find the equation for it. I saw like the director of the Department of Physics there getting a little nervous, and I didn't get the same reaction for some reason. One of the PhD students started to choke on his coffee, and I think they thought I was going to say the word God in the physics department, you know. Please don't go there kind of deal, you know. And so I said, well, let's draw the rest of the guy. Maybe we'll get a clue, because I'm not getting answers. Notice that when the universe is expanding, the lungs in the guy have to contract. For every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. Some of the first laws of physics we learn. You know, in these moments in physics, usually they're followed by quiet time. And usually somebody's saying, isn't it time for lunch? Or, so how's your wife doing? So what I was pointing out there is that the space in the balloon has to have some physical meaning. The vacuum cannot be empty. It has to have a capacity to expand that balloon, and that is the collapsing of the vacuum itself. That is, that we only observe the radiative side of creation, and we call that the material world, but the vacuum, the space, has a physical function that may be the collapse that produce this expansion, that they may be a feedback, and that this function is not explored by us. We miss it, because, sorry to say, but our evolution and our society is mostly male-oriented, which is that radiative, you know, everything is like, let's blow shit up. You want to go somewhere, baby? Let's take some of that explosive material over here, put it in a cylinder, have a piston, boom, 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 wheels are going to go, we're out of here. You want to go to the moon? Let's build a nice phallic symbol. Fill it full of highly, highly explosive material. Thousands of tons of the stuff. Put a little capsule on top, find volunteers, put them in there, light the bottom, and run. And since it's not very tantric, you know, within a few minutes, like, there's a little ejaculation. So, maybe there's a different approach.